right. Thank you for sticking with me. We are back for the fifth and final lecture of the purpose of myth. This fifth lecture is called Everything is Metaphor. This is a quote that Joseph Campbell uses in the video we're going to watch called All Things Are a Metaphor. And then he talks about the power of that we talked about in our previous lecture. We also have the second part of the excerpt from Brian Greene. We talked about it. I read the first page for you in the previous lecture, and now we have the second page. So we had page 81, and now we're going to go to page 82. And this is out of 408 pages. So this book by Brian Greene, I think, is kind of big and large, but it's a good book. And at the end of the page 81, it said, Joseph Campbell argued for a monomyth, a master template for mythological stories in which a reluctant character receives a call to action, undertakes an adventure rife with danger, and we left you hanging with the cliffhanger. So it leaves you rife with danger and death-defying rites of passage. And finally, returns home, a born-again hero whose journey gives our sense of reality a hearty shake. So you'll notice here they are using Christian terms like born again, but they're using it in the mythological way. Being born again in the here and now, being a different person because of this journey. So it's journey-based, it's practice-based, it's not really doctrinally based. So this is another aspect of the Buddhist teachings in the Eastern way. So it goes on to say, more recently, philologist, that's a language expert, Michael Witzel, has suggested that a universal template emerges most clearly not at the level of individual myths, but only when we consider the collective myths of entire traditions. A concatenated storyline, he suggests, that extends all the way from the world's beginning to its final demise. Invoking linguistics, population genetics, and archaeology, Witzel argues that common qualities in these narratives can be traced to an earlier form of mythology that originated in Africa, perhaps as far back as 100,000 years ago. These proposals, and others too numerous to mention, incite controversy and impassioned critics. They have their proponents and detractors. They rise and fall. Some scholars suggest that while the allure of a single overarching explanation for myth is strong, it would help identify the pervasive qualities that shaped our ancient heritage. The complexity of human life as it played out through a dimly lit and uncertain history may not lend itself to a singular explanation. For our purposes here, the explanatory sweep can be more limited. Religious scholar and author Karen Armstrong has offered the sparsest of summaries, noting that myths are nearly always rooted in the experience of death and the fear of extinction. So Karen Armstrong is a religious scholar. She's written several books on Buddhism. So this is what I was mentioning earlier, the big questions, the worry about death and our own impermanence and the limited nature of life. We have to come to terms with our own mortality. When you hit about 60, you realize you're way past midlife. I'm not living to 120. And you start to realize that more of my story is behind me than ahead of me. And yet that can also lend itself not to apathy or boredom, but to a sense of urgency, a sense of meaning in life, of wanting to make your days count. I always tell this story. I have a dog named Maddie. She's 11 years old, and I know that she's winding down and that someday she'll no longer be with me. So I'm making sure that this pandemic, that she and I have had the most fun we've ever had. Her life couldn't have been better. She doesn't see the pandemic. She just sees the joy of being together with her family 24 hours a day for 9 months. And from her perspective, it's been a wonderful time. And she's really given us meaning and appreciation for having her in our lives. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I've tried to present both sides, not everyone agrees with Joseph Campbell, but I feel like if you're a scholar who's saying something important, detractors are kind of a good sign. It means that you're shaking things up. You're being authentic. You're challenging ideas. You're making your life count. So, I don't agree with everything Joseph Campbell says. I think he emphasizes the power of silence a bit more than I would. Coming from the Pure Land tradition, I hope I haven't beat this too much, but I did my master's thesis on it when I got my master's in Buddhism, is the importance of the practice of sound. In India, sound has always been important. There's mantras for everything in India. Getting a job, waking up on time for work, not catching a cold, maybe scoring well in a round of golf. But there's also profound mantras, spiritual awakening, touching the transcendent. This idea that ultimate reality, suchness that is formless and beyond conception, makes itself known to the human mind by manifesting sound and form in the terms of language. So this isn't everyday conversational language, as I mentioned earlier. This is sutra language. This is spiritual language. And I've said the authenticity of Buddhist texts and what makes them true is that they are effective. They help us practice. There's great value in the reader's mind by reading them.